Yixuan is finally coming to 2.0 of Zenless Zone Zero, and she is insane. In this video today, we're going to fully break down this character in great detail. Everything from her kit and how to use her the correct way, her best builds, team synergies, and of course her meta value in Mindscapes. Sit back, relax, and let's finally talk about the amazing Yixuan. As a reminder, all of the content in this video is from the creator beta server of Zenless Zone Zero. As such, information, results, and values may change, although slightly, for her full release. Also, don't forget that even by just logging in, you'll get a free S-Rank general banner character and W engine, and up to 30 limited polls that you should absolutely spend on Yixuan. Thank you very much to Hoyoverse for early access, and now let's finally dive into the amazing Yixuan. Yixuan is our upcoming S-Rank AURIC INK RUPTURE agent, coming out in the first half of 2.0. She is extremely powerful and has a lot of different amazing things going for her. As an overview, she works as a long-ranged, on-field main DPS, utilizing the brand new form of damage called Sheer Force. Indeed, this sheer force gameplay is the core idea of the 2.0 characters. Think of this as a general specialty of Rupture agents, but it will replace the original base attack multiplier when calculating damage. In other words, you could also think of sheer force as an upgraded and improved version of pen ratio and pen stats, meaning it's just a very strong defense ignore on the enemy. Yixuan's kit is an essay, but we can break it down into really important main concepts. The first is all of Yixuan's resources: adrenaline, technique points, and auric ink points. Adrenaline is the improved version of the EX special meter that every character has and is exclusive to Yixuan. What's cool about adrenaline is that you can quickly accumulate it with all of Yixuan's abilities and kit. We'll of course dive into it further in the kit breakdown, but for now just know that she consumes her adrenaline meter to use her very strong EX special attacks. Plus Yixuan gains full adrenaline upon entering combat, and there's a bunch of different ways to accumulate it. As you start using your adrenaline meter, you gain her second resource instead, called technique points. This is indicated by the little meter right here under her character profile picture. The sole important concept of technique points is that when the bar is maxed, you unlock her first ultimate, Endless Talisman Suppression. Using this skill and consuming all 120 technique points will gain you the last resource called Auric Ink Point. This last resource is only used for basic attack Auric Array. So it may seem like she has a lot of resources, but it breaks down like this. You will spend your adrenaline meter to acquire technique points and unlock the first ultimate of hers, Endless Talisman Suppression. After using ultimate Endless Talisman Suppression, you'll gain that Auric Ink Point and actually have the option to go straight into her very strong basic attack Auric Array. Make an important note here that Yixuan also has a second ultimate called King Ming Sky Shade when you get the maximum 3000 decibels. This does an ungodly, insane amount of damage, but we'll talk about this in just a little bit in greater detail. Woo! I know that seems like a lot, but it'll make a lot more sense as we talk about her full kit breakdown right now. And I'll especially highlight which moves you won't really use and which ones are her most important. Basic attack Cirrus Strike is pretty simple. It's just 5 attacks forward, all dealing the new Auric Ink damage with a high anti-interrupt level during the 3rd and 4th hit. Basic attack Ink Veil Cloud Coalescence is the weak form of Auric Array. You'll notice that this Grand Tai Chi formation is the same animation until the ending strike of it. We've already briefly mentioned the strong form of this Grand Tai Chi formation called Basic Attack Auric Array. This incredible move spends that Auric Ink Point you got from the first form of Ultimate. Additionally, there's a lot of combos that go straight into Auric Array, but you still have the option to use it standing alone by either tapping basic attack button after activating dodge Nimbus step, or by just simply holding the dodge button. The most effective way I found to enter this move was just going straight out of that first ultimate by holding the dodge button to activate Auric Array. As for what this move does, it will continually deal Auric Ink damage in this very cool animation that she does. This will be one of the few ways you can accumulate adrenaline quickly, because while channeling this skill, she'll recover 7 per second for up to 3 seconds. Once this move has finished channeling, you will automatically activate the basic attack King Ming Eruption, where she will spread her wings in this beautiful animation, dealing some massive Auric Ink damage. For these basic attacks, don't really worry about King Ming Eruption since it is automatic. It also is not worth it to use Ink Veil Cloud Coalescence either, since it is the weaker form of Auric Array. Same kind of idea for special attack Shadow Ignition. You won't really ever use it much, since there are better options in her kit. It's better to think of this move as a dodge counter since it has one built in. As we'll see from the core passive in a little bit, dodge counters are another way to get adrenaline accumulated. Yixuan has a defensive assist and her chain attack is completely normal like any other character. The only thing to mention about her dodges is Nimbus Step, where she'll enter the light as air state by hanging on to her little buddy and flying around the arena. Don't forget that Nimbus Step is a manual way to enter basic attack Auric Array if you have the Auric Ink point too. But now it's time for her most important move in the entire kit, EX Special. First, note that this move can be charged. In fact, this move has a built-in parry that can block incoming attacks. If you time this charge at the exact moment of an enemy hitting you, you will negate the damage and trigger a perfect block, which will recover 10 adrenaline. The last block of text here shows what you can follow up with after using EX Special and getting that first perfect block. The first one, called Celestial Cloud Blitz Break, won't spend any adrenaline, but you have to have at least 20 adrenaline to use the final strike, called King Ming Eruption Break. Just think of these as each strike of EX Special having a different name. The only ones you have to worry about are the first perfect parry block and the last one that consumes 20 adrenaline, the King Ming Eruption Break. Additionally, if you do have an Auric Ink point, you can hold down the dodge button to quickly go into basic attack Auric Array. There is one other form of EX Special attack called Cloud Shaper. This is that little explosion you see on the screen that will automatically scoop enemies closer to the center, dealing massive Auric Ink damage over time. This is her primary way to accumulate technique points outside of using that EX Special attack string we just talked about. The last bit of this text right here just states that when the channeling of this move is complete, it will turn into Ashen Ink Becomes Shadows, which is just that big explosion portion of the move. The best time to use this Cloud Shaper is when the enemy is stunned, which we'll see why with the core passives in a bit. The last thing to discuss in her kit is what happens when your decibel rating is at maximum, aka 3000, and you know what time it is. Remember that I said Yixuan has 2 ultimates, so press Q to activate King Ming Sky Shade. This is quite possibly the biggest damage numbers in the game, and is primarily the big burst option you will use in her kit. It will deal the massive Auric Ink damage and automatically evenly redistribute the squad's HP, but note that this is not a heal. Additionally, this is another move that you can automatically enter basic attack Auric Array with as long as you have that Auric Ink point. With all of her kit out of the way, we can finally see her core combat gameplay loop. Yixuan wants to be on the field for a maximal amount of time, accumulating her technique points bar, primarily using her EX Special attack string and getting those perfect blocks. Once that bar is charged, you go straight into Ultimate Endless Talisman Suppression to gain the Auric Ink point. You'll also have the option to use your second ultimate when your decibel rating is maxed, King Ming Sky Shade, for huge, massive Auric Ink damage. It'll definitely take some getting used to her kit, but once you learn it and master it, she is the most powerful character in the entire game. And feel free to ask any questions about any of this in the comments below, and I'll answer each one that I can, because I know it seems like a lot. Since that part of the video was a little bit longer than anticipated, let's see if we can speed run through these core passives. Grandmaster of Mysticism tells us that Yixuan is a max HP scaler, gaining 0.1 sheer force per 1 point of max HP, We already talked about the sheer damage part of this core passive, but another cool note is that her Auric Ink anomaly buildup is separate from corruption. Plus she gets 10 extra adrenaline for triggering attribute anomaly. The rest of this text just talks about the conversion rate of adrenaline to technique points, and one last note about investigation zone mode. We won't dive into what that means here, and that's for a separate video. It's just the new hollow investigation that you can do in 2.0. The last thing to note about this core passive is that her Auric Array, Kingming Eruption, EX Special Attack, Assist Follow-Up, Chain Attack, and Ultimate damage all increase by 60%. Additional ability Auric Ink Undercurrent activates when a stun, support, or defense character is in the squad. Whenever a squad member uses an ultimate, Yixuan continuously recovers 2 adrenaline over 10 seconds, as indicated by this buff right here. If you switched Yixuan out via Perfect Assist, she'll follow up with a Lightning Strike attack, dealing damage equal to 225% of her sheer force, and gaining 5 more adrenaline. The second block of text is why you should focus on using that Cloud Shaper while the enemy is stunned, since she'll get 30% increased damage. Lastly, as if she didn't have enough buffs, when you use Ultimate, you'll gain a 40% crit damage increase called the Meditation State for 15 seconds, indicated by this buff right here. Wow, that was certainly a lot of kit to go through, but now let's hop into her team synergies, which are a lot more simple. First, an important note about sheer force. Since this is the improved version of Pen Ratio, some defense reduction support agents like Nicole or Rena may not be as useful. Additionally, since some attack is partially converted to sheer force, some of the attack boosting supports like Lucy will have diminishing returns on Yixuan. This doesn't mean you shouldn't use them, and they will still get an insane amount of damage to Yixuan, just not as much as her optimal teams. With that being said, the #1 team for Yixuan and in the entire game is herself, Pan Yingfu, and of course, you guessed it again, Astriel. We already know about Astriel's insane buffs, but Pan Yingfu was built specifically to be the primary support for Yixuan. By now, I know you've already seen the Pan Yingfu guide on this channel, right? In case you haven't, just know that Pan Yingfu is a major sheer force boost and damage increase buffer, which will perfectly fit in with Yixuan. As for alternative teams, her second best is herself, Pan Yingfu, and Trigger. Although she works with a bunch of different stunners, and I actually really enjoyed using Kalita with her. It is important to note that Trigger's additional ability won't be activated, but the key with Trigger is that she applies vulnerability to the enemies, which will boost Yixuan's damage massively. Plus, don't forget we want Yixuan to be the star of the show and primarily be on field most of the time. However, you're still not out of luck if you don't have Trigger or Astra. By now, some of you may be wondering about the Ether Anomaly team, and yep, that team absolutely works perfectly fine, and I like to call it the Ether Bomb team. In fact, Yixuan is so powerful that she works super well in all of these free-to-play teams. For the third flex spot in support role, her best option would be M6 Nicole if you don't have Astra or Trigger. Past this, you can use either Lucy, Sokaku, or Caesar, but remember that those are more attack buffs, so there'll be some diminishing returns. Overall, the most important thing for her team synergies is that you have Pan Yingfu. Luckily, her build is actually very straightforward as well, starting with the W engines. Her best in slot will be the signature made for her Kingming Birdcage. The additional stat of this engine is HP, which is Yixuan's most important stat. This will also give her a 20% crit rate increase and a new buff called Kingming Companion when she launches EX Special that can stack twice, lasting 15 seconds. You'll get both stacks immediately upon entering combat, but each stack will increase the ether damage of the equipper by 8% and ultimate or EX Special ether sheer damage by 10%. In other words, it's a 20% crit rate boost, a 16% ether damage boost, and a 20% ether sheer damage boost to the ultimate and EX Special. We'll talk about Mindscapes towards the end of the video, but for now just know that Kingming Birdcage is more valuable for her than her Mindscape 1. Since Rupture is brand new in 2.0, there's only really 2 other A rank options that she should be using. The second best option for Yixuan will be Radio Wave Journey, which is the brand new Battle Pass engine. This will give her that all-important advanced stat of HP and an 80 sheer force increase per stack of either launching chain attack or ultimate, stacking up to 3 times lasting 12 seconds. The last option isn't super amazing, but it'll get the job done if you don't have these first two. Puzzle Sphere, which is the brand new free-to-play Rupture engine. As we know, attack percent isn't the best on Yixuan, but this does give an equipper crit damage increase of 16% for 12 seconds when launching EX Special, and if the target's HP is below 50, EX Special attack damage will increase by 20%. Moving on to disk drives, there is only one option for the 4-piece that will be best in slot, Yunquei Tails, the new set. You'll get that 10% HP boost, as well as a 4% crit rate boost, stacking up to 3 times and lasting 15 seconds when using EX Special, Chain Attack, or Ultimate. Repeated triggers will reset the duration, and when you have all 3 stacks, your sheer damage will increase by 10%. As for the 2 pieces, you have a wide variety that you can choose from depending on what substats you get. Although if you do get her signature King Ming Birdcage, her best 2-piece will be Branch and Blade Song for the crit damage. Alternatively, you can use Woodpecker Electro for the crit rate, or Chaotic Metal if you want a little bit more ether damage. As for her main stats, slot 4 should be crit rate or crit damage, especially depending if you have the signature W engine. Slot 5 can be either ether damage bonus or HP, and slot 6 should always be HP, which is a little different from our main DPSs of old. Substats follow the same concept, with crit rate being slightly better than crit damage, then HP percent, and then the rest of the stats. As for our cute little helper friends the Bangboos, her best in slot will be Bellion, followed by Rizonaboo. Let's wrap this all up by talking about Yixuan's Mindscapes. And yes, I absolutely made sure this time to record the Mindscape footage. Remember that her signature W engine will be more valuable than Mindscape 1, which gives her a 10% crit rate increase, as well as immediately gaining 120 technique points, which is the full bar, upon entering combat. When any squad member lands a hit, you'll automatically summon an extra lightning strike from Yixuan, dealing damage equal to 50% of sheer force and giving her 5 adrenaline, while this can trigger once every 6 seconds. I personally will be trying for Mindscape 2 when she releases, which will ignore 15% of the target's ether resistance when using Ultimate or EX Special. In addition, when using that Ultimate King Ming Skyshade massive damage, the enemy's stun state will increase by 3 seconds, although this can only be applied once per stun duration. Even more is that when you use the first Ultimate, Endless Talisman Suppression, you'll gain a stack of a buff called Condensed Ink. Ultimately, this will deal damage up to 1200% of sheer force, and you can only have 1 stack of this ink at one time. Mindscape 4 gives you up to 2 stacks of a new buff called Tranquility after using Ultimate. For each stack, your EX Special Cloud Shaper and EX Special Ashen Ink Becomes Shadows, which is that bomb portion, increases by 30%. Mindscape 6 gives you yet another buff called Regulated Breathing after using the King Ming Skyshade Ultimate. Basically, this just means you get a one-time free use of the first Ultimate, Endless Talisman Suppression, one time. As you'll see from this Mindscape 6 clip, it can lead to some pretty funny damage numbers and shenanigans, and you'll also gain 20% sheer damage increase while in the meditation state. Boom! And there you have it for everything you need to know about Yixuan. I'm pretty sure this is the longest character guide video on this channel, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask them and I'll answer each one that I can. It does seem like a lot of information, but her gameplay is actually simple once you get the hang of it and does the most damage in the entire game. But I want to hear from all of you. Let me know in the comments what you think about Yixuan and how many copies of her are you going to pull. If this video helped in any way, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for even more Zenless Zone Zero. I personally cannot wait for 2.0, and it has so many amazing things to try out. In fact, we might have to just do a little 2.0 stream when it comes out on the 6th. In the meantime though, good luck on your Yixuan pulls, and may Yixuan wanters be Yixuan havers. Thank you so much for watching, I'll see you in 2.0, and bye for now.